Reallocation. Stephen Brightside 323C watched his wife have sex with another man. They were in some cheap tourist hotel downtown themed around a type of music people only pretended to like. The man seemed obsessed with staring between his wife's legs and treating her breasts very roughly. Neither of these things bothered her. She seemed thrilled with everything that was happening as she closed her eyes astride him. The man was Dennis Majesty Falls 402A. He had endured Dennis at a few excruciating dinner parties. He never thought the current situation was even a possibility.
You can't leave me like this. If I don't authenticate, soon security will be here,
Dennis yelled from the other room where he lay on his stomach on the floor. His hands bound with the nylon strapping used to bundle plastic recycling. When Stephen heard this, he gestured for the playback to stop on Dennis's visor. The playback of his wife was sounding almost crazed in her passionate screaming. Her image froze. They both would need to authenticate to their visors soon. His own was in his pocket. Not doing so within the time limit brought an armed security team looking for either a dead body or a very forgetful customer. He didn't want them showing up to this inexplicable mess. There wasn't any blood and only a few things were broken in the scuffle. But still. His wife Lillian may wonder why he wasn't home yet. He hoped she wouldn't look up his location. From the dates on the playback files, it seemed this had been going on for a long time. Longer than he even remembered them having problems in their marriage. He queued every file featuring his wife for backup up to his secure media array. They might be useful in the divorce action he knew he would never file. Lillian Brightside 323C sat across the table from him at the divorce action meeting. Her attorney, a hard and determined-looking woman, stared directly at Stephen.
My client felt threatened by the actions of her husband, Stephen. So much so, she feared for her own life.
Dennis was an old friend of ours. Nothing was going on between us. I don't know why Stephen would attack him the way he did.
Lillian added. Stephen knew the inarguable digital records did not support her statement and that she was doing this for dramatic effect. This entire divorce action was her idea. He continued to tell her he loved her and that they could work things out. Recently, divorce actions were settled by reallocation companies and the legal results filed later after both parties either came to an agreement or ran out of money. He tapped on his attorney to get their attention, which was only a speaker unit built into the meeting table. It connected to what was basically a customer service agent that worked for the reallocation company to provide basic guidance. Provided free of charge, of course. Do I need to contest this accusation of violence? Stephen inquired. He tapped again on the speaker.
Just a second, it won't affect any final amounts.
The voice on the speaker came back.
Were you going with our happy endings, or battle lines package? That may change things.
I registered as uncontested, Stephen replied.
Really? Then you pay the full amounts.
The speaker sounded disappointed.
I am keeping Brightside,
Lillian proclaimed. Give up my home and rank. What does that entail? Stephen inquired to the speaker.
You get reassigned based on availability and there is no guarantee of maintaining your current rank.
Right, Stephen said. Is this necessary? He asked Lillian.
Do not address my client directly.
Stephen sighed. Just hand it over, he said. The attorney transmitted the divorce action agreement to his visor. Stephen flipped through it. The document, of course, favored Lillian in the reallocation process. He applied his signature gesture to it and transmitted it back.
Thank you for using Nmity Reallocation and Finalization Services. Please give us a few more minutes of your time to take a survey that will allow us to continue to offer you the outstanding customer support.
Stephen clicked off the speaker. He pursed his lips in a straight line not resembling either a smile or a frown and stood up from the table. Stephen Stillwater 113D stood in line at the Insta-lunch counter waiting for a spot to open. The anti-depression meds that were being added to his meals made his hands itch. He only ate to prevent another reassessment session. Since the divorce action, filed months ago, his adjustment period was being monitored. Any irregular behavior resulted in reassessment, which involved several unpleasant physical and psychological tests. It was better to appear adjusted. As he sat down in his spot at the counter, a window popped up on his visor. It was the legal notice and final amount of the divorce action. Wow. That affair definitely reduced the final amount, they said aloud.
Whose affair?
The woman sitting next to him smiled. She was amused by his sudden outburst. My wife's. Now ex-wife. Just got the notice that our divorce has been finalized. He smiled back. I have the playback if you need proof.
Thanks, but no. You should probably delete those.
You are right. I didn't even need to use them. Digital records already existed of their antics. But not in the true def-envision playback they made themselves. He joked.
The truest, most realistic definition of all your treasured memories. Yeah, I've seen the visor adverts. Well, good luck with that.
She said as she stood up from the counter.
I always thought divorce was for the unimaginative.
Me too. Thanks. He turned back to his lunch and gestured received on the legal notice to close it. She was cute, he thought. He enjoyed the new feeling that thought gave him. A notification popped up in his visor.
Your marital status was altered to divorced. If this was an error, please contact the reallocation company listed on your legal notice.
He swiped the window closed and walked away from his untouched lunch. The girl from the counter was standing in the transport line outside. Stephen saw her, and before he could stop himself, he walked up next to her. Last chance for the truest, most realistic infidelity playback available. I am taking your advice and deleting it, he said.
If I didn't know about your recent divorce, I would have guessed you were a pornography salesman. But you look too sad for even that.
She gave him a look. Do they have those? He smiled. Sorry, I'm Stephen. He worried introducing himself in a transport line was a bad idea. The fact that they were always monitored did make it much safer, but not any less awkward.
I am sorry you are Stephen too. But I wouldn't mind a cup of the truest, most realistic coffee available. Here.
Request received.
An alert popped up on his visor.
Trisha Sweetwater 124A. Cool beans. 1900 hours, accept.
He froze for a moment, trying to decide how much he could trust this new feeling. Then he gestured accept. See you there. He smiled at her as the request window disappeared, revealing her face smiling back. She stepped into the open transport and was gone.
I love this place.
She said over her steaming cup.
They bypass all the supplements in your profile and give you unadulterated coffee. One of the few places that still do that.
So that means I am off my meds. Should be a fun night. The coffee tasted wonderful.
Hey, Mr. Smut Peddler, you actually have playback of your wife having an affair.
She finally asked. Months of it, he replied.
How did you? Why would you even want that?
She puzzled. Took it off her lover's visor. I thought I might need it, but never did.
Have you watched it all?
No, only the latest one on the night I took it.
It seems like a really painful thing to be walking around with. You need to let it go.
You're right, but, he said, stopping mid-thought.
But, what?
She asked.
Here's an idea. Set it to playback deletion. That way it disappears as you watch it. Then link it to my visor, and we will watch together.
I don't think so, he hesitated.
You really want to go through that all by yourself? I will be here to pull the plug if your treasured memories get too real.
Trisha, I can't. He stopped her.
Spoken like an unimaginative chicken. What could be better than combining the best coffee of your life and the worst thing that ever happened to you?
She teased as she raised her mug. Who are you calling unimaginative? He smiled. The idea sounded insane, but at the same time like exactly what he needed to do. Stephen swiped open his media player and linked it to hers. The same playback deletion image appeared on both of their screens. The moving image of two people she had never seen before now played on her visor.
She's pretty,
she said without thinking. The couple began undressing, kissing and biting each other. Yeah, he started, but trailed off. His wife knelt down and began using her mouth.
Do we ever see his face?
She asked. The man in the playback moaned and grabbed Lillian's hair. I sure hope not. You aren't missing anything, he told her. The man pulled Lillian to her feet and threw her onto the bed.
Did you know him?
She wanted to know. Hated him. Why it couldn't be anyone else I will never know.
Don't take it personally, he was only convenient,
she said. They finished their coffee and got up to leave with the playback deletion still going, but now set to 50% transparency. Outside the coffee shop, their breath was visible in the night air. They walked through the park as the couple in the playback had sex in the back of a furniture store. There was an awkward bathtub sex video as they leaned against a tree in the park, and oral sex in a transport playing back while they headed toward a pond where the moon reflected a glowing silver. The city at night was still and beautiful behind the ghostly video image of desperate copulation. As they began to get hungry, the playback then showed a mirror above a hotel bed. The couple in the video looked at themselves while trying many different positions. At the same time, they admired their reflected image on the ceiling with their necks turned awkwardly. The couple not in the playback also looked up. The stars in the night sky shone through the transparent naked bodies.
You were right, we didn't have to see his face.
They found a small restaurant that also ignored profiles to attract more business. It protected the flavor of their food. As the appetizers arrived, they witnessed an argument over sexual histories followed by some angry makeup sex. The entrees were amazing, but already the playback was getting pretty routine.
Didn't we see this one already?
Trisha asked. Dessert was chocolate and caramelized, but still somewhat alcoholic. He had never enjoyed anything so much in his life. Probably his first dessert in years. They paid the check. An actual physical paper check he signed and wrote down his account number. There was guilt on the playback, lingerie and morning sex. That must have been the company retreat she never attended, he said, not hurt, simply commentary. They stood in front of the large, empty building next to the restaurant.
You want to stop?
Only if you do, he assured her. A different woman appeared in the playback. That's not my wife. He laughed.
Well, if he was getting as bored as I was, you can hardly blame him.
Lillian made her triumphant return after only a few sessions with the new woman. There were a few words about never being apart again and something about getting free so they could be together. Finally, they arrived at the session Stephen had already seen. It seemed more exaggerated and desperate in context of the previous playback. He skipped ahead mostly out of boredom. It ended. There is one more, he said, surprised. Stephen now appeared in the playback. He forced his way through the door of Dennis's apartment. Dennis must have recorded it in self-defense. You little fucking weasel. Did you think I wouldn't find out? I have access to everything you did. Everyone does. What the fuck is wrong with you? Come here. Stephen said on the playback. There was a struggle and the playback froze on Stephen's crazed, angry face. It remained on that single image. She studied his enraged face from the playback. It was full of pain and anger as it faded into the lost, broken version she had met for the first time earlier today. Then the playback ended.
You definitely loved her,
She told him. Stephen saw his angry image fade away, replaced by her face gently looking up at him. He gestured with his hand.
Deletion complete, please confirm.
The moment lingered between them.
Well, Stephen Stillwater 113D, I don't need some sad sack moping around my life. Especially one that just deleted his porn collection. That was all you really had going for you.
I can't even pretend I know what I am doing, he confessed. She leaned against him and he leaned back. Nmity Stories. This story was brought to you by the Nmity Corporation. For more stories, please visit nmitycorp.com or subscribe on your preferred podcast platform.